afternoon, everyone. Oh, come on. Now, I know, and you know, that we are literally the last people between you and your flights home. So I'm going to need a little bit more energy in the room than that. Remember, in this presentation, you're going to get out what you put in. So let's try it again. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So as Aoife said, and thank you very much for the introduction to be here, I'm Emma Lawson, and I've spent the last 20 years of my career driving large-scale transformational change. Most recently at Unilever, and then also now at Bakkavor, the freshly prepared food manufacturer. Two very different organisations operating on an entirely different scale, with different cultures, different drivers for change, and different objectives. In Unilever, one of the programs that I was responsible for was about a structural shift. In Bakkavor, as Aoife said, we're implementing S/4HANA. And yet, despite these differences between these two companies, the ability to land the change, to make the change stick, boils down to what? To people. Have we as a leadership team created the right conditions for that change to be accepted? And by conditions, I'm not talking necessarily about training or communications. Of course, that's really important. What I'm talking about is, do your teams, do your people really buy into the narrative and the objectives of that change program? Do they feel connected to it? Does their purpose align to what you're driving? Do they have the tools to cope with the ambiguity that they're going to face into? And do they feel connected to you as a leader? Do they feel cared for? And that is about mindset. I saw this really clearly when I was at Unilever. So I joined Unilever right at the beginning of the pandemic. Just because of the unprecedented circumstances in which we were operating, as a leadership team, we had to change our approach entirely. We upweighted the focus on checking in on people, making sure we knew how they were doing, where they were at, physically, mentally, making sure they felt cared for. Now, interestingly, that approach to managing the transformation, bringing that to the forefront, was not actually about driving productivity or driving an outcome. It was done out of care for people. It was done out of concern. And yet what followed was high performance. What followed was an absolute commitment to driving that program through to success. And honestly, off the back of that, I've changed my approach ever since. And so I was reflecting on the discussions that took place in the room yesterday and what to cover as part of this presentation. And I apologise if you're expecting a presentation about an ERP implementation, but we're the last ones on the day and it just didn't feel like a finale kind of topic. So instead, what I want to talk about is mindset. And it was great that so many people use that phrase, mindset. Mindset's important. But actually, most of us don't have the opportunity to employ 10 or 500 new team members with the right mindset. Most of us don't have that available to us. So what I want to talk about is, how do you actually create that shift? And as it happens, I've come prepared because I brought with me a performance psychologist, and I'll introduce you to Tom in just a moment. Before I do that, let me tell you a little bit more context about the two programs I mentioned at the beginning, because they really formed the background, the context for the work that Tom and I have been doing together for the last 12, 15 months. So at Unilever, in 2024, I became Chief of Staff. And I was asked to get involved in an organisational shift, an organisation transformation programme. Now, on paper, the programme looked really strong. It had a clear objective, and actually it was much needed at the time. The growth had been a little stagnant, and they needed to do something different. It had strong board backing. But actually, the program was struggling. People hadn't bought into the program, right from the leadership down to the teams on the ground. And consequently, people were retreating into themselves. There was siloed working, and performance was suffering. And it's no surprise that that was happening. Psychology tells us that people don't actually fear change. What people fear is the unknown. And that program hadn't created a clear enough definition of what that future was. So people were feeling uncomfortable and they had fear. So specifically, what I had to do was to give people the tools, the mindset, to be able to face into that unknown, that ambiguity, in order to continue to drive the performance. At Bakkavor, I've been employed to lead an S/4HANA implementation. When the program was first imagined, it was all about mitigating risk. We have 14 legacy ERP systems that are nearing end-of-life support, that are inefficient and unstable. But the leadership team also wanted to use it as an opportunity to drive growth and become a platform for innovation. The challenge was that that upfront narrative about managing risk was really powerful. It had really taken control, it had taken charge, and it was informing the narrative and the language that we were using as a team. The language, in turn, you'll know this, was informing the culture. The culture was informing the way that we were interacting with one another. And actually, there was a lot of mistrust between teams. We weren't playing big, we were playing small. I'd describe it at the time of a culture of playing not to lose rather than playing to win. So in both of these instances, what we really needed was a shift in mindset. We needed to do something different. I wanted to shake things up. And I knew of Dr. Tom Bates from the work that he was doing with Team GB over the last 2 Olympic cycles. I don't know if there's any other swim parents in the room. Put your hand up if you're a swim parent. Yeah, difficult, right? So Tom works directly with Adam Peaty, so I knew of Tom through that connection. And I got in touch with Tom and said, you know what, I want to do something different. We need a mindset shift. What do you think? And anyway, what happened was that Tom and I began to collaborate together. I brought him first of all into Unilever and subsequently into Bakkavor when I worked there. And what we did is, rather than try and manage the change, and we didn't need to manage the change. Actually, in Bakkavor, I've got a fabulous team from Deloitte, so I'm going to give them a call out, that are helping me manage the change. But we weren't managing the change. What we were doing was managing people's response, people's narrative, people's connection to that change. We didn't create plans. We created experiences that we rolled out to every level of the organization. When I say every level, we had the CEO in some of the sessions. At Unilever, we had the president in those sessions. So when I say every level, we literally tackled every level of the organization. We used practices from performance psychology adopted for the boardroom. We gave people the tools to deal with resilience, to face into healthy conflict. And I'd love to talk to you about the programs and share program outlines and talk about the impact that that had. I'm happy to do that offline. But what we thought, we're the last ones of the day, we wanted to have some fun. We wanted to shake things up. So rather than tell you what we did, I want you to have an experience. And so I've asked Tom to present to you just a small part of one of those programs, so that when you return to your offices, it may be just with a slightly different perspective. It might be with some stories that you can use. It might be with a different sense of how to stand, how to talk to your teams to inspire those mindset shifts. So Tom, I know you've just got off a flight from Singapore to be with us, so thank you. And this is very much performance under pressure, but I'm going to invite you onto the stage, and you have about 15 minutes to create a mindset shift. Can you do it?
Thank you, Emma. Thank you so much. Well done. Pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much. Who I am and what I've done in my career, who I've worked with is less important than what we're hopefully going to get out in the next few minutes. You see, in my arena over the last 20 years, as working as a performance psychologist across multiple different sports, Premier League, football teams, rugby union, the Olympic athletes that I work with, mindset defines performance. When all of the technical, tactical, physical work has been done and the athletes and teams and coaches enter into the competitive arena, it's the athletes, teams and coaches and managers who are best prepared mentally and emotionally to perform under pressure, to step up into the arena when it counts, to be at their best when it matters the most. So I'd like to do an exercise with you all. As Emma just said, I've just got off of a flight from Singapore, and quite honestly, I'm not even sure what day or time it is. So if there are any medics in the room and I faint, then please come and get me. They're not laughing at my jokes. Quick, speed up. Please stand. Please stand. Okay. What I'd like to do is suggest to you all as a consideration that the way that you think affects the way that you feel. And the way that you feel defines your behavior. And in a sporting context, that's performance. So thoughts become things. What we focus on, we feel. And this is one of the, I guess you could say, mental and emotional coaching strategies that I use with the athletes to step into and up into the emotional state required to succeed in the arena. So what I'd like you to do, I'm going to put this down here for a second, is when I say, I'd like you to reach up to the ceiling as high as you possibly can after 3. I love the front row energy down here. She's ready. What's your name? Caroline. Give Caroline a round of applause, please. I appreciate the energy. After 3, as high as you possibly can. 1, 2, 3, go. High as you can and hold. This is going to be a great photograph, by the way, isn't it? High as you can and hold. Good. Now after 3, I'd just like you to go just a little bit further. 1, 2, 3, go. And hold. And hold. Now after 3, just a tiny bit further. 1, 2, 3, go. And hold. And relax. Now you might be asking yourselves, what on earth is the point of that exercise? I don't really know, but I'd just like to do it all the time. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart. Put your hands on your hips like this. Pull your shoulders back. Stick your chest out. Tilt your chin 1 or 2 degrees. Eyes facing forwards. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Fill your lungs. Let your chest expand. Control the exhalation through your mouth. Good, 1 of 3. In through your nose. Stand tall, stand strong. Fill your frame. Good. Control the exhalation through your mouth. 3 of 3, last one. In through your nose. Good. And control the exhalation through your mouth. Fantastic. Take a seat. You see, to define the moment, we have to be in the moment. Body language, breathing techniques, visualization, self-talk. There are multiple different skills and strategies that we can use to enter into the right emotional state to succeed. After all, we're human beings. We're not robots. Up and down, right? That's the emotional state of high performance. But athletes know that there are ways to get into the emotional state, to be in the moment in order to define it. But I also wanted to share with you some stories, not just of success, but of failure. Failure. I was working with Aston Villa Football Club as the head of performance psychology in 2017. We reached the final to play Fulham at Wembley in the Championship playoff. That season, we'd been doing very, very well. Won most of our games, and were entering into the playoff final in great form. We won most of our games with attacking talent in the team. And that's what we did in those games. Started on the front foot with the attempt to win. In the run-up to the final, the manager decided to change the style and philosophy of the way that we approached the final, which was essentially just to sit deep, compact the lines, and attempt to not concede the first goal. We eventually did concede the first goal. Our motivation was to avoid failure rather than the motivation to succeed and be on the front foot. The result of that was that we ended up losing. We lost the game, and our dreams of getting back to the Premier League that season ended. And I wanted to share with you something that I feel is a contextual lesson, a principle that perhaps relates to all of us in the room. And I want you to think about the two concepts that I present to you here. You see, there are different types of motivation. We all know that in the room. Some teams are motivated to succeed, to win, to get promoted, and others are motivated to avoid failure. In this sporting context, it was relegation. Because I can be motivated to want to succeed, but I can also be motivated to avoid losing. So the reason why we lost the game was not because that we didn't have the attacking talent in the team. It was because the team had become infected with a type of fear of failure. You see, everybody in the room here today, you're winners, are you not? Who said yes straight away? What's your name? Linda. You left me hanging. What's your name? Hannah. Thank you very much. Give Hannah a round of applause, please. A proper round of applause, please. A proper round of applause. And the reason is because energy is contagious. Energy is required. Energy is infectious. Your attitude is contagious. You see? As leaders, it's not just what we do, is it? It's how we make people feel. It's how we make them feel. Winners hate to lose, but winners aren't afraid of losing. That's the difference. We, you, me, have to dare to lose in order to win. We have to dare to lose in order to win. And so we went back, having learned this lesson as a team, for another season. We recognized that the psychological state of the team was not optimal. We'd made a big mistake trying not to lose. So we adopted a philosophy that said that whatever the state and stage of the game, we would set up to win each game, regardless of our league position, wherever we found ourselves in, and we entered into the final game again, the very next season, against Derby in the Championship playoff final. Having learned the lesson that was pivotal, we stepped out onto the pitch and were indeed successful to get to the Premier League. We had learned the lesson, and this time around, when it mattered most, we got to the final and dared to lose in order to win. I want you to think about this question. 3 questions for you. Why do you choose to lead? Everybody in the room. Whether you lead a team of people or you are just responsible for yourself, which is also a form of leadership, perhaps the most important. Why do you choose to lead? That was a rhetorical one. What's your name? One more time. Mirka. One more time. Mirta.
Yes.
Give Mirta a round of applause, please. Thank you. Why do you choose to lead? Why do you choose to lead the way you lead? And here's the last and final consideration for you all. How would it feel to be led by you? How would it feel to be led by you? Human beings with human needs. It's been said, hasn't it, that people might forget what we did. They might forget what we said, but they'll never forget the way that we made them feel. Thank you. Absolutely. So, I guess you could say my short consideration, maybe, opportunity to reflect, think about how you integrate that into your everyday working practice, is how do you embody that value of stepping up courageously to lead with positivity and power and purpose. Thank you very much. The time.
So this is where it comes back to you. What we wanted to do was just give you a short experience of what we rolled out. Just a tiny little part of some of the programs that we did in order to create that mindset shift with the people, not that we were recruiting in, but the people that we had already. So the invitation here is for you to really consider in these interesting times, these times of ongoing change, in these times where technology tends to sometimes overtake the narrative of what's important, to take a step back, to think about the people, to think about the stories that you're telling them in terms of how you connect with them, how you stand when you walk into the office with all the great learnings that you've picked up from the conference. How are you going to enthuse your teams? How are you going to build that mindset? Now, we'd love to continue the conversation with you. I know that we're out of time, and we wanted to leave a little bit of time at the end for questions and also, of course, for you to get to your flights. But we are around for a little bit after this. And Tom, I think there's something that we want to tell them about as well.
Yes, there is. First of all, thank you so much for your energy and attention. I really mean that sincerely. And when I'm asking for a round of applause for the energy in the front row and the answers coming back, I genuinely mean that. Energy is contagious. The amplification of energy is real. Thoughts have a vibrational frequency. Energy really does transfer to one another. So I'd like you all to give yourselves a round of applause for your energy today in the final session. Absolutely. Absolutely. Such is the power of the transformational programs that Emma and I have been really privileged to integrate across multiple different organizations. We decided to explore some of these principles a little bit further. And we both did something that was a little bit outside the comfort zone. We had never before entered into a venture like this in creating our own podcast. And we decided to interview people from all different sorts of walks of life, from business to music to art, who have life-changing stories to tell. And I believe that every single one of you in the room has a life-changing story to tell, has a book within you, has a lesson to share and give. And so we decided to come together and invite guests to attend and record with us in the studio in London in a podcast. So the Exceed High Performance podcast is really a gift. We went on a journey and learned a lot of wonderful lessons from many different remarkable human beings. The podcast is now available as a gift for you all, a free resource if you're interested or curious about listening and learning from human experiences. And I guess here it is on the screen. Yeah. It's all around us.
Cool, thank you. And happy to take any questions.
Super stuff, amazing. Absolutely brilliant. I positively loved that, and my team in the room will be used to me saying manifest when we want success. Manifest, let's see the success of our project, so I'm a big believer in this. So Tom has said that he would like some hard questions, so do keep them coming in, and there'll be opportunity in Q&A, so we have a time for one or two. Great one here. We all have global teams in the room. Any advice on how to change mindsets in a virtual way?
Yeah, so I'll let you come in a minute, Tom, but actually when we did the programs at Unilever, we were very much dealing with global teams. Mm-hmm. when it came to the leadership team, to the top leadership team, we actually encouraged them all to be in the same room. But obviously it wasn't possible with all the wider teams on the ground. So we ran a series of virtual workshops and sessions with them. We made a point, I guess, of making sure that they were highly interactive. So we made sure that everyone had their cameras on. We paused at various moments. We made sure they were in the room together. And it just became a very interactive experience with people kind of giving back and taking, doing group sessions, etc. So we did actually roll it out virtually for a lot of teams. And yeah, it was just, I mean, we got so used to doing that during COVID that, yeah, we did it. But it was all about repetition. It was never just a one-off. It was sort of a multi-step process. And we would also, what we also did was we had in all of the teams change agents, so people who had been close to the materials, who understood what we were trying to do. So in and around the actual physical sessions and the virtual sessions, we also had people that were promoting those messages, ensuring that that was being picked up in some of the sessions, that the language was appropriate in the meetings and giving feedback the whole time. So it was a virtual approach supported by change agents on the ground.
Yeah, the importance of the ambassador,
Yeah.
bringing it back to the organization.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Tom, anything to add on your end?
No, other than to say that the sessions were recorded.
Okay.
So those that couldn't attend in person had the opportunity to log in and access the information and be a part of the experience in their own time. And sometimes those sessions were global. So with different time zones all around the world, we felt that recording the sessions would be helpful for people to access them in their own time, you know, as flexible as possible to help everybody grow, learn, and improve.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I think we are out of time. Lots of questions coming in here. And Tom, I'll leave you prep for this one. What was it like to work with Lionel Messi? You can respond to that when you get to the Q&A
Who asked
studio
that
in a moment. But that was an amazing session to end. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Really
much.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.